Excellent. I think that's my cue right there. I see that. Hello, everyone. My name is Patty Fraser, and I am a resource worker at Linwood Charlton Center. And I'm joining, or Jessica's joining me this evening to talk about one of my favorite things, validation and emotion coaching, skills for families to support their loved ones. This is such an important tool that we use in the work we do with families. And the reason why I'm super excited about it is because we've actually seen it in action. And if you think about it, when you're validated, when you feel validated, you actually can absorb information a little bit easier because you feel supported and heard. And so this is kind of the meaning behind this. So I'm gonna introduce you or have Jessica introduce herself, and we'll get into it. Please don't hesitate to throw out questions as you have them. I'll try and remember to check the question space. Yeah, so here we go.
Hi, I'm Jessica Clark. I'm a child and youth worker with the Compass Day Treatment Program at Linwood. And having done the training for um, emotion focused family therapy and learning about emotion coaching, it is something that, it's been in my life, not in that exact context, but validation, like you said, Patty, is so powerful in the terms of feeling heard and supported rather than getting your back up. So I'm really excited to be able to share some of this information with families. So um, families, the I think if you are here, you're part of a family, and it can be difficult, and you are not alone. You might feel like you're at the end of your rope. It's hard to cope with your own feelings. You feel like you're trying your best, and sometimes that doesn't feel like it's enough. Um, and you feel like you might not know what to do, and you might just feel overwhelmed. So this is a safe place that we have empathy in our hearts and um, want to help families feel good about their relationships with their loved ones.
There's some great words on here, Jessica, to just remember in terms of how we interact with each other and family members. And sometimes we can forget all of that when things get pretty messy. So that's just a really nice reminder there, for sure. So what brings us here? Well, the reason you've joined us is that there's some openness to learn and grow, and that's the first thing, and that's always very important. And we all experience emotions, and we all have people in our lives that we care about. So using emotion coaching is a way to validate and support others during times of need, building connections and strengthening relationships, and learning new ways to respond to one another. Life with family can be very messy, just like you said, Jessica. It's not an easy thing. And although we love our families and we want the best for our families, sometimes we can get lost in the chaos. So this little reminder here on screen, when little people are overwhelmed by big emotions, it's our job to share our calm, not join their chaos. I just got goosebumps from that because it's so true. And it's so easy just to fall into that chaos. So those reminders are always very, very helpful.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned earlier, EFFT is emotion focused family therapy. It's an intervention that was co developed by doctors Adele LaFrance and Joanne Dolhanty. Um, the goal is to support caregivers to become agents of healing and their loved ones' recovery from mental health challenges um, by increasing involvement in those three things on screen. And the essence of this intervention is like it truly calls upon the strength of families to connect and support each other. So, um, the focus of this webinar series is on the first two, symptom interruption and supporting healthier behaviors, as well as helping your loved ones to process, all those different emotions we all experience that can fuel those problematic thoughts and symptoms. There's the third, in case you're wondering, is something that is outside the scope of this webinar, but EFFT can help with the emotion coaching, and it's all about that connection and looking, if you go to the next slide, Patty, um, speaking to those connections with families. Oh, sorry, that families are the key to recovery.
Nope, this, right? Is this one? Or this one?
Next one.
Yeah, got it. We got it worked out. So I think this is my slide too, isn't it, Jessica? Why families are the key to recovery. So influenced by science, which is one of also my favorite things because I just love linking mental health to science. It really kind of helps people understand the inner workings of what's going on. So this is the science of interpersonal neurobiology. So when you think of that, it really truly means that the power of relationships, families are wired together. I mean, we are born to connect. And that is what our brains are ready for at birth is we come out looking for those connections. And the powerful connection between caregivers and loved ones is so vital in just the role of growing and strengthening strong emotional responses. So this is really about how you can respond to your family members and really make a difference in the interpersonal linkings of how you connect with one another. So an intervention used by many service providers in this community, EFFT, is really becoming a big thing, and it just makes sense. There's such an emphasis on the emotion and an emphasis on the feel-good validation. Again, to be able to talk about some difficult topics, but in a way that makes it easier to hear it because you're really focusing on the strengths and you're really focusing on the kind words that you can use to help people hear your point. Was there anything else on that, Jessica?
I think just continuing to tie it into how with EFFT, it's believed that it's so empowering for parents to have the skills to help their children, regardless of age. Relationships and families span, there's that lifetime of connection. So just knowing that there's power as a clinician of supporting families, but really it's the loved ones who make all the difference and why they are that key to recovery.
That's right, and that's really good news to us who work with families because the magic lies within them, and some of these skills really help to pull that out, for sure. There's certainly many factors influencing mental health challenges. As we all know, and we have been witnessing over the last several months, life stressors can be a huge impacting factor. Every day, like I talk to my own kids, I talk to the kids I work with. Life is a series of stressful moments that you have to learn how to navigate through. And sometimes they can just be completely overwhelming. Social and cultural factors, absolutely, that impacts a lot of different families. A person's own temperament is also an impacting factor. We want to just do a shout out to those super feelers out there because I'm certainly one of them. And that sometimes can make a difference. Oh, there's Jessica putting up her hand too. Sometimes we that emotion is so intense for us, and this includes a huge population of children that we work with, that their temperament suggests that they are very impacted even by the slightest emotion. So that's something that it's important for you to know when you're using these skills with your loved ones. Of course, puberty can be a huge factor in mental health challenges. I don't think I have to go into that. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Some of us have been through that, and that can be very stressful for sure. Were you thinking about whether or not you'd been through it there, Jessica? And of course, genes. What's that?
Oh, just thinking of
Yeah.
how it, going through puberty and that, it ends. It doesn't end when you think it ends. It goes into like your 20s ish, like, the full development of the brain.
Absolutely, absolutely. And those emotion swings and mood swings for sure. And then our genes. And, we are predisposed to different kinds of family influences through our genes. So that's another thing that we should be paying attention to as well. Yep, that's good for that. Next slide. So many factors, just growing on that. These are the two areas where caregivers can have the greatest impact. So emotion processing. This is huge because we are role models. We're teaching our children how to process emotion right from the get-go. So right from our first response to whatever's going on around us and in our environment, and how we take that information in, how we manage that emotion while we try and process it. If our system is overreactive, sometimes that can get in the way of actually processing the emotion. And sometimes emotions can be really, really difficult, and you just want to avoid them altogether. So that's sometimes a challenge. And then the family environment is the other huge piece that contributes to the impact of how mental health influences our families. So what's going on with your family, how many people you have around you. I think about the last 6 months and a lot of us being stuck in the same place 24/7 with our family members. And yes, we love our family members dearly, but when you are stuck in the environment and there's no room to escape, that can actually become somewhat of a challenge to navigate through when you just want that break, right? So emotion coaching is one of the ways caregivers can make a difference in these situations. So I think this is where we can have a little bit of fun. I'm interested to know what everybody else is weighing in on this question. So it's a poll question, and we're going to get it up here on the screen for you. So there you go. We encourage you to participate and pick one of the answers, and then we'll see where we've landed. So this poor little guy, I mean, he just looks so devastated. And I think he's not feeling too great, and everyone thinks I'm a loser. So I want to know from you guys, what is your first response or your first instinct, given some of the answers on the poll questions? What might you say to this little guy? I don't know why I want to call him Charlie, but he looks like a Charlie to me. So let's see what people are thinking about Charlie here. We've got 75% who are counteracting it with a clear, no, you're not a loser. I think that's the winning statement. We've got 25% who are actually taking a different approach and going a little bit underneath. Whoa, was it a bad day for you? So perhaps maybe just the fact that he's labeling himself as a loser could mean so many things. And it could just mean that he had a bad day and his emotions are taking over And that's what came out of his mouth. So I like that answer too. There is no wrong answers. Some of them, maybe you should try harder to be liked. Well, that's not so nice. But sometimes those things come out of our mouth. And yeah, so that's our highest one, is no, you're not a loser. So you're validating the whole point that he's not a loser. Little Charlie here is just a sweet little guy who's had a difficult day.
Absolutely.
Good
We're
job, guys.
conditioned to want to soothe when someone's upset. So validation, um, what is it? Like it may be something that you're, like, oh, I got this. I validate all the time. Um, or it might be like, oh, I think I know what validation is. I would like to share kind of what we have come to kind of an agreement of what validation from our perspective is. So, uh, recognition and acceptance of another person's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors by communicating understanding of their perspective or experience in a kind and supportive manner. So, the emotion coaching validation will come in the next couple slides, but for just straight up validation, because emotion coaching, um, I don't think we've said this yet. It's an advanced caregiving skill. It's one of those things that when you learn it, you'll be like, wow, this is a lot, or you might think, oh, it's not that much, but it's one of those things that you don't need to use every day, all the time, for every situation. Emotion coaching is one of those things that helps, um, when you're feeling a bit stuck, whereas just straight up validation can help and just kind of stop before things get any further. So if you think about yourself, and if you've ever had something, you know I've broken it down to things that bother me is when I don't get my way. So anything that doesn't go my way is where, I feel, well, I'm off of that happy baseline. So, um, I'm sure you can think of a time where something hasn't gone your way and you've either felt mad, sad, um, you things might go your way and you do feel happy. So when someone validates you and kind of, it's not just, you can feel like you're just blindly saying, "Oh yeah, that's so awful." Like I'm a loser. No, you're not. That's a good attempt of trying to validate and like comfort, but validation is that recognition of you know I can understand why you feel that way, um, and because sometimes it can be hard to validate certain things. Like if someone's upset, I don't know if anyone ever has road rage or anything like that, but if you get upset by someone cutting you off and your passenger thinks you're absolutely irrational for that bothering you, that can make you even more upset. Whereas if someone's like, oh yeah, that's driving can be frustrating, like even they might not say, yeah, that person was wrong, but it just kind of, it's like, yeah, it is frustrating. So the power of validation, as humans, we want to be heard and feel accepted. So validation is a way of letting someone know that you understand them, and feeling understood is that essential ingredient to feeling connected and supported. So um, when someone important to us understands us, their hearing us helps us tune into ourselves and accept our emotions as real and meaningful. Like it's really powerful. I
It's
don't know if
I
you can
think it's
tell.
really important too, just I think it's really important too, just to kind of highlight that validation is not a judgment. And sometimes it's hard to validate somebody else's feeling that you might not even agree with. You might even be a little bit confused as to why they're experiencing that feeling, but you're still giving them the validation that it's their feeling. They own the feeling. They are feeling it, so therefore it's their feeling and it's right. It's right for them at that time. So I think that's a really important thing, because you can get caught up sometimes in not wanting to validate the wrong thing. And a lot of people don't want to validate anger. Let's use anger as an example. However, anger is a part of life. We all experience anger at some time throughout the day. Um, so feeling validated that you're allowed to be angry actually helps you get through that anger and onto the next emotion. And it works like a charm. It really does. You'd be surprised. just by saying something like, I hear ya. I that must be absolutely horrible. Just validate it. Don't judge it. Okay, now we've got some interesting things to watch, I believe.
So
Hey, it's Louise. Is it okay if I just jump in for a second? I was just going to point out one of the questions in the question answer discussion box with a clarification added about what does it mean if we pick that in reference to the no you're not question.
So it means that
Okay,
you
I'm
naturally
reading it
want
here.
to help. Like it's if you picked that no you're not like you're not a loser, that means I think that's a natural reaction that we have been conditioned to immediately if someone says something like oh I'm so ugly. Oh no you're not. Like typically that's often what we want to
Oh,
say is to take that kind of hurt away. So, um, I'd say heart, your care is there. And with emotion coaching, it kind of changes the order of how we do things so that there's still the no, you're not. It's just in a different kind of order.
so no, you're not a loser, but there must be some big feelings going on for you right now. And maybe we can talk about those feelings. So you're still validating that he feels badly. But yeah, it's a we don't like hearing kids say I'm a loser. And so we automatically kind of jump into, of course you're not. But they also need to know that that feeling that they're feeling is coming from somewhere and that that's okay. Let's explore it a bit. Let's not be afraid to see what that's really about. It isn't that you're a loser, but there's probably some feelings in there that led to you feeling like that today.
So with
Does that
the
answer the question? Okay, good. All right, are we taking a look at this? Do I click on this?
there should be another box that comes up with links from Louise, I believe.
Oh,
Yes,
so I
hang
shouldn't
on
have
now.
done that.
Well, it's. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, if people
We're
can
on a
click on
learning
it, I keep
curve here.
forgetting that. Yes, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
How about now? Is that better even?
Yes.
Hopefully. Hi there, and I know that some of our participants today logged in and missed the little beginning part. So hi, I'm Louise. I'm with Your Space, one of the project coordinators. So thank you very much for all the interaction. And if you'd like to go ahead and click on the link that's right on the screen below the little shot there, that video will start playing, and you probably already clicked it, and now you're listening to me at the same time. I'll stop.
That was me. Sorry, everybody.
Oh, no, that's okay. When the video's
And then
finished,
I
you're going to
got
need to come
lost.
back into
I
the
got
Adobe
knocked out.
space by clicking on the little green and black square.
Technical difficulties. It's just not our thing. So am I supposed to push on it?
Everybody has to click on it themselves. I'm so sorry, Patty.
Oh,
When I
that's
said
okay.
you, I meant everyone. My apologies. It's only about a minute. Okay, that was probably good for that minute. If everyone is able to just send a quick message in the share questions and comments box, that's basically our moderated chat, just to let us know that you're back and you're able to watch the video, and we'll make sure you have the links afterwards as well. You're all good. Okay. As well. Okay. Sorry for the overlap there. I'll provide greater clarity on the next one because there is another video in a moment. And so once we give you the go ahead to go click on the link for the next one, we'll all be
feedbacking.
I got an echo going, right? I'm going to go ahead and turn my microphone off then, okay? And you guys keep on going.
So that first video, I'm not sure if you noticed anything. If you've ever been in a similar situation, it may not, feel like it applies directly to you, but essentially, a loved one coming to you with something that didn't go their way as they expected, that they're upset about, and you think that you respond in a way that is supportive, but their response is, they're still upset with you. So the next video is just you still see what you notice about the next video.
Same as before. Go ahead and click on the link on your screen.
Much smoother.
All right, if you let us know if you're back from that one. Looks like we're good. Thank you.
Excellent.
So there may be, I'm not sure if there's glaring, obvious difference between those two videos, but there definitely in the outcomes, there was a different vibe between the first video and the second video. I'm not sure if um, anyone felt that way as well. It's one of those things that you think that you're responding of like, oh, that friend of yours, she's why would you go with her? And it's like, well, that's still my friend. There's a different way to kind of offer that support and validate the issue without it's hard because it's one of those things that you're trying your best to say what you think someone wants to hear or needs to hear, but sometimes it goes as you would expect, other times it doesn't, and that's the thing, looking for connection over perfection, and that you keep trying versus saying, well, I can't talk to you. That's you might feel that way sometimes, but it's one of those things that you just keep trying to figure out how to best respond to each other. So that leads us into what is emotion coaching. So with emotion coaching, as you've heard, we've got the validation that we've briefly talked about, and then we have the next part 2A and B of emotional and practical support. Um, so children and youth, like I mentioned earlier, that are experiencing mental health challenges need more than the usual parenting skills. And emotion coaching is an advanced caregiving skill. So when you have that validation plus that support, you have emotion coaching, um, and that's what we're going to expand on.
There's a question. This. Oh, we're really feedbacking.
Patty, I know why it is. Can you turn off your sound on your alternate device? Because I know you've got 2 devices going. If you turn the sound off of your extra one, I think its audio's coming back in.
Is that better? Yes. Yeah? For
okay,
everybody?
Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say that to this question, yeah, it's not the greatest acting in those little skits, and that this is a skill. It's a skill that you have to practice and build so it comes across a little bit more naturally, and then it does sound realistic. So yeah, in the video it may not have come across as totally, I'm still going on here. Let me just turn this right off. Hello? That might be better. So it is a skill that you have to practice. We don't just have it. And so it feels a little bit strange at first, and it comes across as a little bit awkward, much like the video. But you practice, and it does tend to get easier and sound more authentic when you're trying to validate.
Jessica, your microphone's not on now. So sorry. All good.
That's why we have you here, Louise.
Bringing me back to my Zoom team meetings, the amount of times that's happened to me. Ah. All right, let's try that again. I did it so well. So, if you could read lips, that would be great. You'd know what I said. So it made sense to look at emotion coaching rather than just validation on its own. In case you're kind of wondering what the difference is, you know, we have that equation there where we've got validation plus support. So validation, like I've mentioned, is great by itself, but with the EFFT model, emotion coaching is that component that just makes, you know, that next level, and it's it doesn't stop at validation. You know, it takes that next level. So instead of, you know, oh, I'm such a loser. Oh, you know, that I get why you think that way, but you know, you have lots of friends. Your people really like you. You're super funny. You know, there's that validation there, and you sometimes that's where you can leave it. But that emotion coaching kind of takes it to the next level to kind of deep validation, I guess, like that going next level. And we'll, you know, cover that in the coming slides to really go into detail of what that looks like. Okay. So why emotion coaching, I guess, is also a good question to ask of like, what is this actually going to do for me? Like, how can this be helpful for my family? So how it helps now is it manages the fire. So if you think of emotions like fire, you know, it's always there. We need fire to survive in some ways, for heat, for, you know, cooking and those kinds of things. So when it's controlled, you know, it's manageable. But when it's out of control, it can be quite scary. So you want to know how to kind of try and manage those emotions. So emotion coaching helps manage that fire, bring it down to a level where there's some reasoning skills, um, and it can help to avoid further escalation and improve cooperation and engagement. So when there's that struggles around going to school or going to doing certain things that people don't want to do, emotion coaching can help to kind of get through those tough times.
Something that I've got written down here, which I think is worth mentioning, is caregivers' verbal and nonverbal signals actually trigger a release of oxytocin from the hypothalamus in the brain, which then binds to receptors in the limbic system. And that's a whole bunch of science, which I've already stated I love. But there are chemicals going on here. And if you can interact with someone using validation and emotion coaching and provide, that softening of the extreme emotions that they're feeling, and get into a dialogue that feels safe and comfortable for them, then you are managing the fire of emotions, and you're giving that person an outlet to be able to express themselves in a safe way. And you're providing some flexibility just by validating them. You're encouraging them to open up and have that conversation. So it does take it to that next level. Validate and then work through that emotion coaching with them for sure. So how does it help in the long term? Children and youth may be more aware of emotions and needs, and this is something that we see in our business a lot of the times, is that one of the first things we do with children is to really help them understand feelings and emotions. And that's really key in helping children and youth actually manage their own emotional fires as well. So the more you talk about it, the more you expose your children to, the more you talk about your own emotions, and use your role modeling as an example of how you're breaking down your own emotions and you're processing and working through them. It also helps to better regulate on an ongoing basis. So you might find after validation and emotion coaching that over time, if your children are used to you responding that way, that they're going to have better regulation and the ups and downs aren't going to be as huge. Because they know that my mom or my dad or my caregiver is going to understand my feeling, and they're going to help me work through it. And that automatically puts out the fire or calms it down anyway. We see an increase in better academic and social function. They experience improved physical and mental health and fewer negative emotions overall. Also developing an ability to be more independent. Sometimes when kids just hear that it's completely normal to have, I call it a slice of anger pie, because I always like the analogy of a pie, and at least one slice of that pie is probably going to be a negative emotion. And that's how normal it is that we experience these emotions. And when we validate that for kids, they feel a little bit better knowing that negative comes, and that's okay. It will come in like a wave and it will go back out. But the key is to be able to talk through it and process it and feel heard. So that's the kind of space we want to create for them. Next. Okay, how?
Wants to be involved.
Sorry, Jess, what did you say?
The cat's name is Pickle, and I can't just shoo her away. She keeps.
Oh, Pickle's joined us, isn't that? Now, hi, Kitty, to Jessica's cat. That's nice. So how does emotion coaching work? Well, caregivers' efforts promote brain-building activity to create those connections between the problem-solving and the emotion parts of the brain. So really, in its most simplest terms, if you can pay attention to those emotions and validate those emotions for somebody, they're going to want to, or they're going to feel much safer to explore them with you. And then you're actually building those connections in their brains. And they're learning that these emotions don't have to be so difficult to manage all the time. Hi, Pickle.
I think of the mirror neurons of, you know, when a baby smiles back, like there's, you know, we're wired to be able to learn from our surroundings and our loved ones.
That's right. So the more practice we have as parents to use these kinds of strategies, the more kids learn that this stuff is manageable. They pick up those skills themselves and they can actually begin to coach themselves, right? Yeah, it's very true. All right.
So, emotion coaching. We're getting to the center. We've got step one, the validation. So we've already talked about validation quite a bit. So just another recap. We've got validation is conveying an understanding of your loved one's experience with care and compassion. That's one of the biggest things. You know, if you say, well, I said, oh, I get why you're upset, you know, your tone, your body language, like the actual words you say, but your nonverbals are so much more powerful of, you know, how you convey that care. It's, you know, proving that you get it and really it's the key thing here is being genuine. Like you are, it's not just for show. It's one of those things that you're getting on your child's level and you know, Adele references building a bridge, like you're building that bridge to your loved one to be able to soften, you know, those feelings and work through the struggles. So this is one of the things people often struggle with is feeling like you're validating something that you don't agree with. So when you validate feelings, you're not validating the behavior. So I can understand why you would feel this way. It doesn't mean that you're agreeing that they should feel that way or that you agree that, yeah, it makes sense why you would do that. It's more you get why they feel that way. So as we said before, validation is not a judgment. You know, you're not providing reassurance. You're not problem solving, although we do talk about problem solving in the support side of things. And it's not encouragement, and it's not the same as condoning behavior. So just bringing it back to the little guy when we said the no, you're not, that's, you know, trying to provide that reassurance. And it's, like we said, it's that first knee-jerk reaction, and it's you know, it's not wrong. It's also what we're here for is talking about emotion coaching and that kind of next level of things. So validation is, you know, conveying that you get it and not making a judgment while you're doing that.
Right. So I think about maybe an example of two siblings who maybe got into a bit of an argument and it ended up getting physical. We don't want the physical altercation in our home. But if we go in to validate, oh my goodness, obviously something has gone wrong here for you guys and you must be feeling really frustrated. We can validate the feelings behind what happened without validating the negative behavior. We can deal with the behavior afterwards, but validating that the two siblings are probably not feeling at their best because they're arguing and fighting, that can go a long way to open up the dialogue to get to the problem solving. So it's kind of like the first step for sure. Oh, sure.
So this is a bit of a framework to follow, and like literally you can script this to make it easy. Like that's one of the beauties of emotion coaching. It's intended to be as user friendly as possible. So often, you know, if I'll keep bringing it back to that that little guy at the beginning of I'm such a loser. So, or I guess we have a different example now. I only got 90% on my last assignment. So often, I only got 90% of my last assignment. Oh, that's like, you should be so happy. Like, that's great. Or I can understand why you'd be sad, but you should be happy. Well, we want to move from but to because, and there's some power behind that because it's getting to that kind of raw truth that we often don't talk about. It's more, really validating. Like, I can imagine why you might feel frustrated or disappointed that you only got 90% on your last assignment because you worked really hard on that, and because you thought that you would get a higher mark, because it's you were worried about this, and it's nice when you see that your hard work pays off. So you're using those real, and it's always individual and specific to your family, because you can make a script for a scenario ahead of time, but it may not apply in the moment. So it's really important to kind of sense that the feelings from your child and kind of really put yourself in their shoes to be able to validate effectively.
There was a question.
And again, I'll bring it back.
There was a question down here, Jessica, and I answered it the best I could. Just around, would it be okay to ask them why they feel that way? And I think oftentimes when kids' emotions are heightened, they might not have the answer to that. They might be confused as to why they're feeling that way. There's still room to validate. Okay, the feeling's there. I get it. And I'm sorry that you're experiencing that. Let's talk more about that. Let's, maybe in away from that situation, you're spending time reviewing feelings and helping them understand feelings so they're better prepared to answer why they might be feeling that way. So it's all around the education. But in the moment, they just might not be able to tell you why. It doesn't mean that you don't validate it. You still validate the feeling. I hope that answered that question. And the other thing is the scripting is key. Dr. LaFrance talks about that. And that was one of my favorite pieces about this kind of strategy or this practice is don't do it without a script. I mean, it's so easy to jot down or to use this framework and say it right off the page. She's a big fan of reading it right off the page, so you just get really, really good practice in. And it doesn't take away from the genuineness, because that was one of the questions I remember talking about is if you're reading a script, it doesn't look very genuine. It still comes across as strongly as you want it to. And it's okay to let your kids know, this is a new skill I'm learning. How does it feel? Would you like to learn it too? So again, that opens up a dialogue about learning about emotion. So it's all good there.
There's actually a script for validating how awkward using emotion coaching can be. Like, it's like being ahead of, like, it might seem weird. I can understand why you think it's weird that, I'm talking this way because I've never done it before, because it sounds really odd, and I'm really awkward at it, but I'm trying, and I'm want to be able to support you in a different way.
So I can imagine why you might feel a little bit strange about the way I'm talking to you and reading off the paper. But it's because I want to learn something new that's helpful for us. And it's because I love you so much and I don't want the fighting to take over. And this is a way that we can practice. And because, what's a third because there? I just drew a blank. But yeah, you just follow the script and you just get really good at filling in those blanks. Okay. So step 2A, emotional support. So meet emotional need by offering comfort, hope, reassurance, belief, togetherness, or space and time alone. Again, validating whatever it is that they need in the moment to work through it. Offer a hug, offer acceptance, thumbs up, high five, statements like we're in this together. So even if there is a behavior that you don't agree with, if you're going at it from an emotional standpoint, you still validate how they're feeling. You still offer them love and hope and support. And then their mind is a little bit more open to some of the feedback and some of the emotional coaching that you can take them from this step to an end step, which ultimately feels better after you've discussed it all. So definitely, I remember Dr. LaFrance also talking about that's why they offer 3 positives on that script. That is the ideal. Sometimes kids won't hear all 3 of them, but they're bound to hear at least one of those reasons. So it's a good message. We're going to get through this together because I love you, because I'm here for you, because you mean everything to me, and I'm sorry you feel that way. So practical support. So providing practical support by redirecting, distracting. So that's a really good one for, especially for you parents out there who have small ones. And they could be just having a temper tantrum and you might not really know what the feeling is, but they still can be validated, and you can use directing and distracting as something that's going to help them move away from whatever has been distressing them. You go through your problem solving skills, and there's so many models out there. I'm sure that even your family has their own favorite way of problem solving. So you want to, you certainly want to help with the problem solving when the emotion is settled and a little bit more calm. They're not going to hear you if their emotion is still way up high. So that's when you're going to continue to validate and try and bring calm to them, so you can get to the problem solving steps. Setting limits, of course. There's so important for all of our parents to be setting limits, keeping things safe, providing the framework for how we work through these issues as a family. We don't do that with violence. I understand that you're mad, and I see that you're mad, and that's okay to be mad because we all experience that. However, there are things that we need to put in place to make sure that everybody's safe when they're expressing themselves. Teaching and practicing skills, that's ongoing. Gradual exposure, again, the more that they see you using this model and even using it for yourself, being able to let out a feeling, and maybe your partner can validate that in front of your children. So you can model that together. So they see that it doesn't have to be the end of the world because the anger came up. Gradual exposure, takeover. I can understand because times 3, and I believe in you, and we will get through this together. Let's take a moment to breathe. Then we will get ready for school, and I can speak with your teacher. So that's a really, again, very scripted, regular kind of response to looks like some early morning distress about getting to school. I think I did your slide, Jeff.
It's okay, Patty. We've got the flow going on. So some different supports that can help. So I don't know about anyone else, but I love visuals, and looking at this, it is quite, I know for me, appealing to be like, okay, yeah, escape distraction, your loved one's the best, and what it means for them, whether they're, they love reading or they like video games, or, it varies person by person. physical energy and release is so important, especially when we've been cooped up so much, whether it's going for a walk. Personally, I love, little dance parties, that play. Like, it's important to release those feel good endorphins by moving your body. The sensory based and soothing side of things, like that's, we can think of self care. There's the term that goes around quite a bit, whether that's having a bath, listening to some nice music that you like, doing a self massage or going for a massage if that's available, spending time with a pet, just, those things that help you to just, whether, I don't know if you like candles or different scents, there's all kinds of things that can, if you think about those five senses, it can help to help regulate yourself and feel better. And then always basic needs. Hunger is real. So whether you're hungry, you're thirsty, or you're tired, and I know that can be hard to bring up with if someone's upset, but once we've done that validation, hopefully they're at that calmer state where it's like, you know what, I am hungry or I am tired. I could use a nap, and get what you need to kind of get to that baseline. And then calming and emotional regulation. We've got that meditation. I always think breathing is a good strategy. Being out in nature. It depends on how you feel about nature, but nature does have some really nice, powerful benefits. Yoga, those calming things that bring you down. And then, of course, comfort and emotion release. So cry it out, talk with a friend, get that hug, journaling. There's so many different things that you can do for comfort. Tying into sensory, I don't know if anyone has weighted items. That can also be a benefit if that works for you. The hanger is. I just noticed that comment. I don't suffer, but I know it's real.
Lots of hangry. I think too, it's really important to know that you use these emotional coaching supports. You can take a break from the problem. It's not going away. So once you validate and you're using, you're teaching your children to use some of these strategies to bring them back to that calm baseline, it's never too late to go back and talk about what really happened. And so you might not be able to get into that conversation just by validating. You might have to follow it up with helping them understand how to get them back to a calm place before you start to get into the problem solving. And I think as parents, sometimes we have a hard time with that because we feel like we need to deal with the issue right now. And maybe that's perhaps some of our own feelings that are getting heightened. And maybe that's a time for us to also use, maybe to validate ourselves. Oh, this is so frustrating. And maybe to use some of our own emotion coaching supports before we have the actual problem solving conversation with our kids. It's never too late to go back. It's never too late to go back and validate. If you missed the opportunity to validate, it's okay. You can go to your child at bedtime and say, I noticed today that you look like you were feeling a little bit off. I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. And you know what? I'm here for you if you want to talk. I'm here for you if you want to share those feelings. So don't think you've missed the opportunity and therefore you can't go back. It's never too late. So putting it all together, I'm going to read this part, Jess, and then you're going to kind of take us through the steps, right? So here is an example of the breakdown, and then Jessica's going to just take you through all of the steps that we've covered and pull it together for you. So I can understand why you would feel disappointed that you only got 90% on your last assignment, because you worked really hard on the research, because you spent a lot of time putting together the presentation. I watched you. I watched how hard you worked. And you spent a lot of time, and because you expected that with all that hard work, you would get over 90%. You went in there thinking that that was going to be your mark. You did a great job, and I'm really proud of you. If you'd like, we can explore talking to your teacher, and for now, we can try to take your mind off it and go for a walk together. So that's kind of, the script that you want to keep practicing over and over again. I can understand why, because 3 times, and then offer the support that I'm proud of you and I'm here for you.
Ooh, thank you for bringing the arrow in. So we've got step one there are resources. Adele, the EFFT website has some really great resources with actual sheets you can print out, but we'll break it down here. We've got step one, attending to the emotion. So, approach the situation calmly, acknowledging the presence of that emotion. I can understand why you would feel disappointed, because you only got 90% on your last assignment, and naming it, so, naming that disappointment. And it's one of those things that it's described as kind of like whack-a-mole, and that you're going for a shot in the dark. You might say, I can understand why you would feel disappointed, and then I'm not disappointed, I'm mad. And you're like, okay, I can understand why you would feel mad. And because that can help draw out that communication of what they are feeling. So I can understand why you would feel disappointed, that you only got 90% on your last assignment. We were going back into that because, and that's the validating the emotion. Like, often if it was 90%, you'd be like, you should be happy you got 90%, but no, that's not what's needed right now. I can understand why you'd feel that way because, and thinking of why they would feel that way, because you worked hard. And and then again, this is one of those things, not aiming for perfection. You're just throwing things out there, and they might say, yeah, and I did work really hard, and it, they don't even know how many websites I went to and how long it took me. Like, that this can help elicit some of that from your loved one. So it's the experience as they are experiencing it. Like, you want to do your best, and like we've said, it's not about being perfect. It's you want to resist kind of going into the bright side, like trying to use logic to help them see the situation like you see it, because that's often what we want to do. You want to make them feel better, but avoid that for now. try to stick to the how they're feeling. And then you have meeting the need. So you've got that emotional support of you did a great job, and then that looking for what they hope to come from that situation. So if it's anger, helping to kind of figure out what boundary they need to have set. If it's fear, protecting from danger, or how to work through that fear. Anxiety, helping to confront that situation with love and support. And with sadness, you want to try and soothe. There's those different things that are needed for different feelings, and again, you're trying your best. It might be like, do you need a hug? No, I don't want a hug. And then, it could be later on they might want a hug or they might not. So, you're trying those different emotional support things, and then going into that practical support with the trying to fix or problem solve. So, by offering to go to talk to the teacher, that might be like, oh, no, it's fine, I don't care. Or actually, yeah, that would help. Or trying to figure out what would, help to move forward, and then having that other piece of what we're doing right now, because it's not like you're going to talk to the teacher in that moment if that's not available. So whether it's a walk or watching a movie, whatever makes the most sense for your family.
Very good. Very good.
That's a lot to take in.
It is. And again, I want to emphasize that this is a skill to be built upon. And I really encourage people to check out the website that Dr. LaFrance has. Did you name it, Jessica? I'm drawing a blank, but we'll make sure there's a name for
it's
the
on the
website.
Slide.
Okay, perfect. We'll make sure that that's up there, because there's so many resources there for families just to pick and choose and practice the skill over and over again. So it does become really authentic and just part of the way that you manage daily. So checking in with all of you guys who are listening to us, it's okay to wonder how this will work in your family. You two are learning a new skill, disrupting, conditioning our own experiences and our patterns. Even putting your own stuff aside can be really, really difficult, and tuning into your child who needs you to be there for them right there, to really work through their emotion. So sometimes that can be really hard. As a parent myself, I have to get calm brain sometimes before I can put my skills to practice, and that's really important. Troubleshooting, practicing what you want to say, try with positive emotions. Write out a script. This is encouraged by the developers, just to kind of add that again. Other points to consider. This is your slide, Jess.
Yeah. So another, oh, I just totally lost my train of thought.
That's okay. The 1 degree effect.
Speaking, sorry, to the validating positive. Sorry, Patty. The validating positive emotions. What that means is being able to validate, like, the instead of the I only got 90%, saying I got 90%, like being able to say, hey, I could get why you feel so excited. Like if you practice it in those times where it's not as stressful versus when you're like, ooh, when if you're feeling the feelings that your loved one's feeling and it's impacting you, it can be hard to try and go through that emotion coaching. Whereas if you start with something that there's not that pressure of that someone getting more upset, that can be really helpful.
Baby steps.
Yeah. So speaking to the 1 degree effect, so don't be discouraged, or try your best not to be discouraged if progress is slow or small, or if you feel like it's non-existent. If you change your course by 1 degree, you end up somewhere completely new. So if that's just, keep trying. If it feels like if it just keeps not working, you are making an effort, and your loved one is bound to see that you are trying, and that can mean so much, And emotion coaching, like doing those steps, validate with the support, it's again an advanced caregiving skill, and you can't emotion coach 24/7. That is just exhausting and draining. It's one of those things that you want to think about when does it make the most sense to apply it? And if you feel like you want to apply it more often, you do you, but just don't feel like that has to be how you live every day. And like we said, practice with those less intense situations. You want to pick those moments that make the most sense for you. And while you're getting used to this method, be kind to yourself. If you think back to the beginning of this webinar, I'm not sure if you recall being validated yourself on how difficult it can be, being in a family, feeling overwhelmed, and I'm not sure if that had any sort of impact on you, being like, yes, thank you for saying how I feel. So just think of the power behind conveying that understanding to others.
All right, I think we went a little bit over, but it's an exciting discussion. I'm pleased with some of the comments we have here. People are chiming in and saying that it's a helpful thing, and that's great. And just to reiterate what you just said, Jessica, don't take on too much too fast. Do it slowly and dabble, and you will get better at it, for sure. I think that after our training, actually, the top floor of our agency probably walked around for a week validating each other and practicing our scripts on each other. And just through that, it became a little bit more genuine, and it rolled off our tongues a little bit better. So give yourself a break and just keep at it. Be brave and show that you care enough to continue trying to connect on an emotional level. Connection over perfection, right? And emotion is like fire, always there, but with the right tools, it can be managed safely. So with that, I believe we are wrapping up. Is there any questions that anyone has before we go? I do apologize for going over time, but please feel free to jot down any questions that you may have. And Louise, thank you for putting down the website where people can actually get the materials and the resources to help them practice these new skills.
You are very welcome, and thank you all so much for sticking around. Yep, we did go a little bit beyond, but sometimes that's just how it is, real life. We can't always plan to the minute, and this one felt important to not cut short of the last little bit there, where it kind of comes all together. Really appreciate all the interaction today, and if anybody's comments or questions were missed, don't hesitate to send us an email afterwards. You'll get a follow-up email in a couple of days. It's got the link that's on the screen there. If you click on it, the page is blank. Once we have the recording and everything else up there, there'll be some more clickable things, and you'll get that email to let you know that it's all up and ready to go. I do see one more question in there about the slides. I know we've already got the recording. There'll be links and things like that. If these slides are things that can be shared, we will post that up there too. Patty and Jessica, do you know offhand if that's something we might be able to put into a PDF?
I don't see why not. I really don't. So we'll check that out and get that done as soon as possible.
Okay, so we'll follow up on that, and at the very least, I think some of those pages are handouts. We'll make sure that there's links to the handouts with some of those tips and things. We do appreciate everyone's time, and Haruka, my colleague and fellow project coordinator, has also been in the background helping get people's comments and questions over to our shared public box so that everybody can hear what everyone else is saying. So thank you to Haruka. And we do want to also make sure that everybody knows that there's another session that is happening next week. And of course, I did have the link. Where did it go? I'm going to make sure you've got the link to that in here. And if anyone is interested in that one, it is advocating for my child or youth, which is certainly something that lots of families are thinking about right now with so many changes. And please stay tuned for more sessions and all kinds of things that are going to be added to the our registration page over the next little bit. Lots of our providers, including Linwood, are working on some other sessions to help kids and young people and families at this time of year when we're heading back to school. Thank you again. We really appreciate your time.
You guys, what a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.